The Democratic Party actively threw away the easiest gimme of all time. Kamala Harris actively ran towards Biden instead of running away from Biden. Not on just Gaza. Gaza is one issue. It's a significant one, but it's one issue. What is important about Gaza is that it demonstrates a couple things. It is a microcosm of the problem at the heart of the Democratic Party, which is their inability to listen to the actual voters, no matter how loud those voters are yelling. Their inability to do the bidding of voters and doing everything they can to defend their benefactors, their corporate donors. They were willing and did throw away an election when all signs and all data readily available showed that changing the trajectory and pushing for a ceasefire actively would most likely have seen at least a 6-point swing in some of the key states. A Harris campaign organizer says senior officials ordered them to erase voters who asked about Gaza, marking emails as no response so they'd be removed from outreach. No engagement, no persuasion, just ignored. We also didn't create a new category for Gaza response out of fear that that category would be leaked. Instead, we were told to mark them up as no response. The only clowns out there are those who were in senior leadership and decided to abdicate on this issue, who silenced the Palestinian speaker of the DNC, who told us to ignore it every time a voter asked us about Gaza. This is a massive failure. Writing this off is throwing away tens of millions of dollars of work. When someone goes and knocks on a door and has a direct back and forth, or someone calls someone, a voter, a potential voter, and has this back and forth, and they mark that as like, oh, unresponsive, throw it away, you're literally throwing data away. And you're doing that because you're afraid that if that data leaks, everyone will know the sinister truth, that you are avoiding this issue like the plague because you have donors up your asshole. I'm saying that people don't vote on harm reduction narratives. This has been a demonstrable failure now twice around. At a certain point, you can't hope that the educated electorate is going to come out and respond to harm reduction narratives. Ironically enough, in this circumstance, it's not like Kamala Harris was even advocating for harm reduction. On other aspects, maybe, but the harm reduction was packaged in a way where the Democrats were admitting that they were wrong and hypocritical. Like on the issue of the border, Democrats were advocating for a right-wing border bill that Republicans wrote that was basically Trump's agenda from 2020 that they successfully defeated on the issue of immigration. And that basically was an admission that they were wrong on immigration. Why the would anybody vote for you then? On the other hand, yeah, Trump wants to do mass deportations. Is that worse? Of course it is. Trump wanted to do mass deportations. Kamala Harris advocated for Donald Trump's policy from 2020. Which is worse? Of course, mass deportation is worse. But in the eyes of the voters, they're not going to look at that and go, well, this is harm reduction. They're going to look at that and go, you said the border wall was racist for 8 years. You called me a Nazi. Now you want to build the border wall? Turns out your ineptitude is the reason why we have a border crisis to begin with. And now you're admitting that. You can't win elections like this. There are plenty in this community, Michael from Pennsylvania, myself, we saw this from a mile away. I talked about how dangerous a gamble this was for Kamala Harris, running around with Liz Cheney over and over again, thinking that she's going to be able to carve out a constituency of white suburban moms that are going to carry her to the electoral victory. It was a failure. She drove away the base.